What's going on, guys? Dan here, DD Speed Shop. Working in the shop like usual. So we've moved this, I don't want to call it a hot rod, we'll call it a pile of parts from garage A to garage B. Now I think what the plan is with this thing, we've been talking it out, there's all sorts of ideas. I found a small block, a pretty rowdy small block I'm thinking might be kind of cool in here, but still pretty dead set on a ridiculous big block. Anyway, what we got to do is kind of start to assemble it. I won't not say I'm overwhelmed, but I don't really know where to start, and we just got to kind of get into it. This thing came with a whole book of how to put it all together, and kind of step by step. You know, in reading that, it's definitely a step-by-step how to build yourself a nice little cruiser or, you know, like a Cobra-esque kind of hot rod. And there's a lot of stuff in there which we're going to go ahead and omit, obviously, the way we're going to build this thing. Now, I think step one, I haven't decided yet if I want to spend money on all the tubular control arms and all that yet. So step one will be making it a roller. At least if it's a roller, we can kind of see it. You know, maybe then we can kind of put a motor in. It's going to be a lot of together, apart, together, apart, together, apart in this situation, I think, which is fine. Again, I'm thinking, I mean, if we're going to have a big block in, the whole front clip might come on and off, might be pinned on. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's not going to be like a factory kind of car, exhibition car. Now, it did come with a Ford 8-inch, which is probably fine what we're going to do. And the center section, the axles. The problem is, well, and it also comes with the front end, but the problem is everything is Ford 4-lug. I could tell you how many of those wheels I have. Nada. Now I was looking, a lot of stuff was like 14-inch, which we don't want that, a 14-inch wheel. Trying to find some Mustang, like a 5-liter Mustang, 15-inch kind of stuff, but it gets expensive. And here's the problem, is it gets expensive. I just want to be able to make it into a roller, maybe do a little mock-up, but I don't want to spend a bunch of money because if we're going to go ahead and do this thing, I mean, we're probably going to upgrade the brakes and do all that. Everything is 5-lug conversion. Well, you can get. So we'll end up probably putting on Chevy or Ford. I haven't quite decided. Conversion stuff. You know, you can either re-drill the axles, get new axles, get apparently old Mustang, like 64 to 89, something like that, will fit. And then you got 5-lug, so it'd be 5 by 4.5, which I also don't have anything, but that's a much more common wheel. And if we want to go with giant wheels and tires, or wide, I should say, with big tires, we're not going to do it a 4-lug. Plus 4-lug, if you're a 4-lug diehard guy, I'm sorry, but you look dumb. So, what we're going to start to do today, we're going to take this front end apart. Hopefully it'll come apart easy. It should all just directly bolt on there, the front anyways. Might have the lower control arm bolt, may screw us, but we'll figure that out. So we got to take that apart. The rear end, we'll probably go ahead and just stab it all together. Now we don't have any of the rear control arms, as we know, but I'm thinking the rear end, we'll just weld it in place, give it an eyeball, do that, get the front end together. I have a want head out for wheels. Hopefully we'll find them. I don't know, one step at a time. So that's step one in my books. So let's start taking this front end apart and go from there. Never done it, but it's just a Mustang or a Pinto. How hard can it be? Okay, so just a quick little update. I took the shock absorber out. Where did I put it? Well, I tossed it away. Anyway, so the shock ran between the coil, very common. So that is out, came out pretty easy. I then broke the bottom ball joint loose. It is held on the nut, but it has separated. So that's all together. Now what I've kind of just built out of some scrap I had here, some 1/2-inch all thread, piece of bar, and some washers, you know, a bunch of grease on the washers. We're going to run the rod through where the shock absorber was. That'll kind of compress this whole mess. We'll be able to loosen that nut and then slowly undo that and take the tension out of that spring. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of ways to do that, spring compressors and stuff like that. I find this is the easiest, it works the best. I've done it for many Tri-5s. It works just fine because obviously that spring is going to want to let go, and in a car, you have the motor and all that weight on it, you can break a ball joint, lower the floor jack, do all sorts of things. we don't have those options. The other thing I like about this all thread being in the center, so the spring ever decides to kind of exit stage left, there's the all thread going through there, so hopefully it won't blast out and kill me. This is, I think, the safest way to do it. So we'll get the camera set up and we'll go ahead and take this apart. The plan will be, hopefully, lower control arm off, and then we'll just take it all apart in one mess. So we'll have the upper and spindle with the brake and all that mechanism. It should just be 2 bolts at the top. We'll be able to hang that, upper and spindle, and then this control arm on the bottom. Hopefully that bottom bolt will come out. That may fight us, and if it does, we'll just cut it out, drill it out, whatever we got to do, and we'll put some sort of miscellaneous bolt in there. It'll be floppy and all that, but just to kind of get it together, see what this thing looks like, get a stance going for it, put a little bit of weight on the front end on these springs, and see how they squish right in half with a big block. But yeah, let's keep making progress. I hate this part. So, got our 1/2-inch rod just with some nuts on it. I always put a jam nut on the bottom or a secondary nut just in case there's ever an issue. And we'll go ahead and crank this up. It shouldn't actually take too much. And if you don't have to thread a rod too long, like an idiot like me, you could use an impact gun, I guess. But I don't know. You're screwing around with suspension and stuff under tension. A couple of wrenches really just make you feel good and kind of feel the way she's going. So hopefully we'll compress this real quick. Take the tension off that bottom nut, undo that, and then we'll just slowly but surely loosen everything. Now you want to make sure you're obviously tightening these nuts and they're not, it's not walking off the bottom or doing something like that, because that'll, I believe the word is catastrophic failure. Now this will bend this threaded rod and all sorts of stuff like that, but it's fine. That. Oh, there we go. So now that castle nut, finger tight, so that means all the spring pressure is held up in that threaded rod. Kind of scary when you think about it out loud. Look at that. So now you can undo this. Again, you want to make sure you're not there's not a whole lot of threads at the bottom, right? It's all at the top. So we want to make sure that all the threads are coming out the top. Otherwise, you got yourself a rocket ship. But the second nut's good for that. Kind of holds her all together. And if it falls off, you'll know it. So let's get this off real quick. Okay, so now just to show you real quick, this spindle is completely off. So now all of the spring pressure is just between the control arm and whatever this little saddle it's in is. So keep twisting. Okay, so now the nut is finger tight. So as we kind of whack it out there, it'll keep pulling. We're going to be just, the spring is trying to rip herself right out. So you want to be careful. But every turn of the wrench means there's just that much less spring pressure. So again, we can kind of loosen it by hand. And with the thread rod in the center, can't blow right up. Give it a whack. There we go. Now we took all that out basically, all the slack I put in, which a couple inches. And this is going to be exactly how it goes back together. So there you go, the rod is, might be all that we're going to get. We'll probably got to get the rest out with a pry bar. So we'll take this all apart, pry bar out this spring. There we go. So it's a little awkward doing all this when there's not the weight of the car to hold everything. Now, again, we could have kind of cut this spring out, but we need to reuse it in the short term. So, I mean, if you're just taking the junk off, you just want the control arms, torch that, heat it up, do whatever you got to do. it's all apart. So now, all that's holding this lower control arm in, I believe is one giant honking bolt there. Let's see if we can get that out. And then on the top, there's just 2 bolts that go in here. Should they go in a set of sliders or something like that, or a set of dogs maybe? I'm not too sure. So we'll see if we can buzz those out. Real quick, what size are these? Fortunately, this thing has a bunch of adjustment. I don't think I can get a socket on it. Oh, they're tight. There we go. Okay, 1. There we go. 2. Don't want to lose those. And now, look at that. The whole mess just comes right out. These are your, that's kind of a cool little push and turn. So we need to keep all these for the future install. But there you are. Now, essentially on the car, you'll see it because I'll take the body off and stuff right away. But it has the same kind of look to it, but obviously it's professionally homemade. No bad welds on that. Not a one. A couple. Toss these in the car so I lose them. Get the other side apart. There you go, subframe, which I gotta say, the guy who owned this before did a great job of keep track of everything and all that for me to ruin it. But I cannot believe these lower control arm bolts came out. Of course now it's stuck, but it obviously came out. I just hung the suspension. I think this is the right side. I have to double check. I don't know if it's rear steer or front steer. Maybe it's front steer. I have it backwards. Anyway, that's relevant. Well, I'm just kind of seeing what things go. There is a slight kit carism, and I think we've got a few of them coming down the pipe. The way the upper control arms bolt on, so this piece kind of fits in, goes a quarter turn, then it won't come out, right? Like a little keyway. Well, obviously we have the same thing here. Now that won't fit in this one. It's tight, but it does go in. Actually, I just had this one going, I think. Well, maybe not. So it does kind of go in. This side, like not even close. So we're gonna have to do some filing and screwing around. I just put 1/3/8 bolt in there to hold it. I just had it in there. I feel like an idiot now. What the heck wanted I grab? Oh, there we go. So, I don't know, maybe these need a little love, a little cleaning, maybe it's just a little rust, I don't know. We gotta figure that out. But either way, I think that's where we're gonna leave it for right now. It's supper time. I should go consult the manual and see exactly what way this all goes together. Obviously, we have those little arms, which these, there's probably a left and a right maybe, I don't know. But these will go into that little thing with some bushings on the top there, and that's how you triangulate. So pretty simple. I don't know how much that will even put on. I mean, this is all we really need. If we had a spring in there, we'd be able to set it down on some wheels that I don't have yet. Oh, we're gonna have to take these brakes apart. They may be a little on the rusty side. But, I'll see you in a little bit. Next day, and well, we're gonna carry on where we left off. So as it turns out, I referenced the instruction manual, and it recommended you put the steering on the front, and which means I had this on the wrong side because obviously the steering arm has to mesh with the tie rod. Now apparently you gotta shorten up these tie rods to make it fit. We'll see what we gotta do there. You gotta cut 7/8 of an inch off each side. I guess it's a little too long or something. Anyways, we got this all together. So very simple. I'll film the other side. I just want to make sure it all kind of went. I went by Mers because he told me he had a bunch of wheels. Those and those all don't fit, so that's a bummer. And I did go snag my slicks. So these are 31. They're 315/60s, which I believe is a 31 tall by 12 or 13 wide. This is the size of tire I want to run on this fine hot rod. So I'd like to maybe get the front end together. I thought we could put a wheel on it. We might be able to kind of jam something in there just so it looks like something, but it won't really fit. I also have some skinny front runners downstairs we can maybe try. When I do the brakes, I'm gonna upgrade to 5-lug, obviously. So we'll deal with it at that point. Those are unilugs, so we're good. The steering, it looks like it's missing a bushing. So we'll have to get some of those or whatever, and obviously some long bolts. Maybe in the kit, there is a box of hardware. So one's gonna go through in that bolt, and this one here is adjustable, I don't know, slippy slide. So we'll put that together. So we should be able to have that. I'm not gonna put the strut rods in just yet, mostly because I don't have the bushings, so it won't do anything anyways. That is what triangulates the control arm, obviously, otherwise it'll have some flex forward and back. We'll have all the flex forward and back, but for our purposes, we don't really need that in there for right now. So I'll get us up on the other side and show you exactly what I did to get it all together. Pretty simple, the exact opposite of what we just did, except we're working on a hoist. Man, is this ever handy. Who would have thought working at waist height, or chest height? Man, I love this thing. There's not really a good angle here, but this is what you're getting. Now this side is gonna be a struggle simply because the lower ball joint didn't really want to come out. It just started spinning when I had I'm trying to take the nut off. So I used the upper ball joint to break it apart, which unfortunately means I have to now lift up the brakes, which I know I look real strong and manly, but it's still heavy. And because you're at a bit of a goofy angle, what we're gonna do here, gentle, get the spring kind of lined up so the tail will fall into the lower control arm. Now we're gonna ratchet strap it. Oh, I got the ratchet strap the wrong way, damn it. Hang on, hang on. Grab it. Just get it started. I guess we gotta pull it up. Whew, that's heavy. Oh, I don't have this on the lip very good either. So we'll get it at the maximum amount we can with this. Gentle. Then we can jam in our tool, which is now a piece of bent threaded rod. But it's bent to Mustang 2 specifications. Get that. Jam it through the control arm, through the spring, through the shock perch. A couple of washers. My impact. Gentle, gentle. Okay. Stay. Now let's get started with the impact. Much as we can go. Okay, so that's that. Now, we've got the tail in line with its little groove. Obviously, these springs have a flat spot, so it's in the cup. So now what we have to do, grease. See, get them together. So set that like that again. Now let's use our wrench. Spin it around. And slowly but surely, this will bring her up. I'm hoping anyways. So you already see there's no tension on the ratchety strap anymore, so that's good. And this we can move. Probably should have loosened the end bushings, but let's struggle. I've done this way a bunch of times. You can, lots of guys have done it. You put in a spring compressor with those hooks, stuff like that. I think I even have that tool. Actually, I think Mur has that tool, and it's stored over here. But this does the trick just fine. Okay, we're getting close. Ouch. Piece of jagged metal. there's a piece of jagged metal, I find it. So now, man, that hurts. We have the ball joint in the spindle, and as you can see, every time we crank it, okay, just falling in there. Safety nut, put that on there. The second this is on and tight, there's no fear of death anymore. Just that easy. I say easy, but man, I hate dealing with springs. I gotta say that's where, what a coil spring or coil over, I should say. Coil spring is what I don't like. Definitely would be kind of nice from a safety standpoint, but this works. Has worked for years. Ugh. Should we just have all that in there? I think it should be good though. Now we're not gonna cotter pin it or doing like that. The bottom one's tight. This is just, again, temporary. Make it a roller. Still contemplating if I should buy proper tubular control arms. I say proper, but I feel if you don't buy like name brand stuff, you're getting Chinese junk, which I kind of dislike. Honestly, on Tri-5 Chevys, I prefer the stock control arms with rebuilt stuff. The problem is the rebuilt stuff's getting so freaking expensive. It's, I mean, it's definitely cheaper put on the other control arms, but they have so much cast strain, it kind of drives crappy, which I'm not a big fan of. But there we go. All together, I'll take this apart, and I'll see if we have bolts to hang this rack on, and then determine if it's even worth putting on, or if it's just going to make it be a pain. Because what we can do is just put a ratchet strap or something front and back to hold the wheels and go from there. So we're going to shorten up these tie rods. I already got this one started, what ways ago? The jam nut's supposed to break away from the tie rod, but you know what? It came apart fine on the other side, so we have to take off 7/8 of an inch. I did eyeball them together, and in fact, it does need 7/8 of an inch taken off each side. Who'd have thought the instructions were right? So we'll just take this off real quick. Real quick. I am amazed actually at how well a lot of stuff's coming apart. Kind of didn't see that happening. So, how are we doing here? Hot. Woo, hot, 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 hot. I use gloves. Now, give this a quick eyeball measure. The trick is 7/8, about there-ish. So if you leave the nut on, it'll go ahead and clean the threads up for you. Where to put my wrench? Oh, that's embarrassing. Here it is. Kind of run her out. Folds all the threads over. I'll go ahead and spray that off. Hi, ha, ha, ho. Even the wrench is hot. Then we'll just lock this all the way down. This is basically like a tap and die setup. Get that around there. Is that bottomed out? Bottomed out-ish. Now, unfortunately, the instructions did say use the donor hardware. I don't have that. So, we'll see. We might just put a, I don't know what size it is. If it's 1/2 inch, I got some all-thread rod just to kind of hold it in place. Here we go. Factory shortened. Now again, this is just to get together. I'm sure I'll spend the $12 and put new tie rods and all that on it before we go, you know, we're running 18s in the quarter. So I just hung this thing on there. I had some, I used 1/2 inch all thread rod, which is clearly not the right size. it's too small. And this side had no bushing in it, so we just kind of eyeballed it with a washer. The rack's got to be shifted that way a little bit just because of the way this one's all the way tightened in for the threads. Might need more cut off, I guess, but and I mean, who knows if the wheel's even straight, but it's straight-ish. We now, in theory, if we had wheels that fit, would have a roller. So actually a pretty simple setup. And I mean, I know you can't see it right now, but the motor, this is where the motor mounts are, I believe. So the motor will be over here, your accessory drive kind of all here, but the steering's definitely gonna come up at an angle. It'll need some, I don't know what it has, or it needs. It had no column to get up and over, but we should be pretty good. Now, I know in the last video of this thing, I was like, oh, big block and this and that. I'm now toying with the idea of a high winding small block, because there's one for sale locally. But we'll see, it's a bunch of money and all that, but I do have to put money in that big block anyways. Maybe I'd like to put that in something else. My brain, it just keeps going and going. But ultimately, it's kind of together. So now we can kind of see that. It looks very simple. I think it'll work. I might just, like I said, order all the ball joint stuff on it. We can do that down the road as like a mechanical video. But the rear end. Now, do we try and just fit the rear wheels in the body? Do we hang the rear end in there and kind of eyeball it? I don't know what we're going to do yet, but I'm going to think on it. We should probably just slap the rear end together. I don't have any hardware for it, and guaranteed it's going to be fine thread studs on the case. But we can set it in there. Maybe I'll have I can find one. I'm sure it's going to be 3/8 fine thread. One bolt to hold it in there. Jam the axles in with a couple of just coarse thread bolts. Hold it all together, and then we can decide what we got to do. Unfortunately, then it gets heavy. So maybe we'll get set up and do that real quick. Okay, so being a smart guy I am, I've put the dirty center section full of junk on this little fender stand, and pretty simple. It's got a vent, so that's the top. This looks to be the bottom because I have a bit of pad for a leaf spring setup. We're going to put the center section in. I don't have any fine thread hardware, but what I'm thinking is once the axles go in, it'll hold it in there. And this, oh God, man. Huh. You know what I probably should have done is put the case a little closer to me. Oh God, wash my fingers. Okay, that could have been worse. So now, what's going on here? I need a mallet. Oh, this is gonna be, Remember when I thought I was smart? That was short-lived, eh? Okay, we're doing it on the ground. Oh God. Here we go. Gentle. Why don't you just stay somewhere? Will it roll this over? Yeah, all right, well, I'll try again. Okay, so after a ginger love tap with a rubber mallet, we got the center section in, very simple. Now we got the axles, they're different lengths. Since this is offset, I assume the long side will be this side. These Fords are nice, so on a Chevy you'd have a C-clip to hold the axle and all it in. These ones have little retainers on the side with the bearing, so hopefully we can just get this to slide on in there. Nope, that's definitely too long. Weird. Wonder if it'll fit in this side. Oh, this tube is noticeably longer than that one. Guess I could have used my eyes, eh? Gentle. Man, if only I had a stand to work on. Okay, there we go. Yeah, close-ish. So we gotta give it a few more whacks, but for what we're accomplishing, we don't need that. We'll just put a bolt. Oh no, as if it's not this size. Oh, you know what it's gonna be? It's probably got a bolt with a goofy end on it. We have a hammer. That on. There we go, we got one. So the axle can't fall out. I know it's not perfect. Shocking, I know, right? But at least now the center section can't fall out. Not that it would anyways, I tell you. Once it's on those studs, she ain't moving. Kind of line her up there again. Close enough. Little safety bolt. We're all about safety. Perfect. Oh, unfortunately, now I gotta lift it. Probably got way heavier. Okay. All on my back. Oh, man. Oh. Gentle, gentle. Whew. Whew. Fender stand's getting its work out. Twisted it. Twisted in. Okay. Oh. All right, a couple of ratchet straps. We'll get her set. Okay, so a little screw around later. Look at that, she's all hung. I kind of eyeballed in there. I don't know exactly where I want it to run. I kind of figured in the pictures I was looking at, the rear end was below the bottom control arm, you know, as it kind of hangs down. So I figured it'd be, you know, straight-ish. So that's kind of about where I put it. In the wheel well, I want to pull it back just a hair, but we're just going to kind of eyeball it. Realistically, I believe that's probably where the bump stop should be. So if I'm just going to, you know, pull it back, give it a tack, and it should be fine. The rear end is centered. Look at that. It's not bad, eh? So a few ratchet straps and a little bit of screwing around, and we got it pretty much where we want. I might use those, you know, screw jacks to kind of hold it. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to get a piece of, you know, angle or something like that, weld it to the inside of the frame, weld it to the top of the diff, and call it a day. There's no weight on it. Hopefully it won't break and fall off, but if it does, we'll handle that. And I'll cry when the fiberglass breaks in half. But yeah, we're getting there. Roller. So I'm going to cut some steel real quick, and we'll come back and we'll dial this together. Okay, so we got her all eyeballed together, and on the one side we got the little piece on, which is our leftover piece of these, or that little tripod piece I had. Oh, this is awkward now. So just go ahead and clean this up. Should be good. Now, this unfortunately, oh, it'll be okay. We'll go around this little vent. Try not to cut the ratchet strap. That will work out. Okay, so we'll give her a little, come on, helmet. What the? Little tack weld here. We lined up top. Yeah. That didn't look good. Wow. Maybe I should have ground a little more of that paint off. Yeah, a couple of them sounded all right. I don't think we're taking any corners. Okay, should be able to, straps off, this one, then we can weld this, the side and the front a little. I didn't want to go too crazy Put the straps there. Oh yeah, right over the grease. Excuse me. Yeah, this one's a bit of a hassle. What's going on here? Kind of bunged this one up when I put her together. Now she's locked. Come on. Perfect. We'll give her a little heat on the front. All right, that ain't going nowhere. So, I think well, not that we can even put wheels on this thing, unfortunately, because of the lugs we have, but put the wheels beside it, put the body on, eyeball it, see what it looks like, and worst case, to cut it out, move it around, it's not too bad. And if you happen to be local, and you have 4 lug wheels that'll fit whatever this is, Mustang, let me know. I can't find any. Cheap. Well, she's cobbled. I slapped her together just to kind of see what it's going to look like. So we put the wheels on. I knocked out all the studs except for one to kind of hold it. I definitely have the rear end too tall. You can see the body is kind of sticking out, so we have the body proper to be sitting like a monster truck, so I have to drop it. But I think now that I've seen it together, I kind of have an idea. I get to run it by all you experts. So I'll weld the rear end where I want. I got to re-weld it, but that's fine. Put it where I want, kind of mock the body up. Now, what I'm thinking is I'll buy one of those universal 4-link kits I see on eBay all the time. So it's kind of hard to point out now, but this right here is our box section, which would have had the original lower control arm, which then would have gone to the rear end, right? So that's super easy. I can do that there, make my little bracket with a couple of tabs, and just use adjustable bars and heims. Easy. Now, on the top, that's where I have a bunch of issues. Same thing. So right there and right there, they're actually, we'll go for a deep dat. Oh, there's a brace there. But there's 2 holes. They're adjustable up and down. So same thing. If I run a bar from there to the center section, wherever it is, with heims, and then I'll just have to run spacers on the factory welded bits, but it's dual shear. Well, on my dual shear on the rear end, that'll give me my triangulated 4-link, so it should track straight. It has this bar, which is definitely a little on the light side. But if I just run a bar across, you know, something pretty skookum, and then I'll just put 2 coil springs, or coilovers, I should say, sorry, and bam, that's in. It's centered. I think it's a pretty good idea. The front end, again, I put the wheels on. No, I mean, when I put them on, I just set them up against their little studs, so they're obviously sticking out a little bit. And yeah, we gotta mess with the body, but it kind of looks like a car. Just squint a little bit. But there you go. That's doing it for now. So I wouldn't say I made a roller, but I've started. And getting started is always the hardest part for any project. I'm sure, as you guys know, we're getting restarted. But now that I have an idea in my head, I'm going to keep jamming and start putting this thing together slowly but surely. Thank you very much for watching. I'm working on members content, so if you want to support the channel a little bit more, you can become a member. And out of that, we're going to try and make some behind the scenes videos, stuff like that. Don't worry, nothing's changing on the main channel, but we're literally filming every single thing I do, which honestly I couldn't put out as videos because it would be a little goofy, little 5-minute videos here and there. So if you want to do that, for sure, I really appreciate the crap out of that. I promise to waste the money on junk like this. Leave a comment below, and I will see you on the next video. I don't know if we're doing this or 56 Chevy stuff, but we're staying busy.